Comedian Marc Maron is on his, I guess, second wind Renaissance tour, and he's really killing it. He has been going after the Joe Rogan anti-woke sphere comedian guys out there, and he's been laying into them pretty hard, and I appreciate it. People like Joe Rogan and his ilk helped to get the president elected. There's no getting around it. Not only did Joe Rogan admit that he thinks that he was one of the reasons why Donald Trump got reelected, but he was also at the fucking inauguration. So when I hear them out there going, oh, we're just independent guys out here, we're just comedians and we're just against the woke and all that yada yada, they don't even know what the fucking word means. But, meanwhile, he is worth billions of dollars. He gets paid by Spotify, I don't know, something like $100 million a year, or is it $200 million a year? The guy's richer than 6 foot off a fucking bull's ass. He's got all the money in the world, and he is now in the club. And let's not forget somebody like Bill Maher. Bill Maher is the same shit. Is just another son of a bitch who is just trying to maintain and hold on to relevancy. Now, Bill Maher's always been a bit of a libertarian. Even back in his days on Politically Incorrect, he was he was always a contrarian, and he's got his little ballywick when it comes to religion and what have you. He did his religiosity movie, or Religulous, I believe it was. And back in the day, he used to be a Bernie guy. In 2016, he was a Bernie guy. And by 2020, he was all about Amy Klobuchar. And then, recently he just visited the fucking White House and had dinner with Donald Trump. You can't sit there and tell us in his first term that Donald Trump doesn't plan on leaving office and he's an authoritarian and a wannabe dictator. And then once you're proven right after January 6th, then turn around and go to have dinner with him, which is why, what's his face, Curb Your Enthusiasm guy, Larry David did that little parody, My Dinner with Hitler. And, how he was like, oh, Hitler was really nice in person. He smiled, he laughed at my jokes, and he pat me on the head and told me I was a real good boy. And, a lot of people don't know that the dictator is actually a really sweet guy, and he likes his dog, and he loves his girlfriend, and yada, yada. Anyway, back to Marc Maron. He is on the Pod Johns here, Crooked Media, the Pod Save America boys, and he is asked about Bill Maher. Marc Maron is asked about Bill Maher, and he's I love this. Just the first answer. Just the look on his face is priceless.
What do you think about Bill Maher?
I can't do it. I always had a problem with his tone. I think I did pull it.
I love it. I can't do it.
Correct years ago.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
A couple of times maybe.
Yeah.
And I think I did real time maybe once or twice.
Uh-huh.
But
that's when you were dating Ann Coulter at the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a dark time.
Mm-hmm.
I tried.
And just in case you guys are not familiar with sarcasm, he did not date Ann Coulter. This is just sarcasm.
Like, I feel with Bill that there is this, and it happens with some of the other boomers, there's this desperate chasing of relevance that, changes someone's mind in terms of how they approach what they do, and also kind of makes the whole undertaking feel desperate. And outside of his ideas about primarily, I think, wokeness, I don't know, it's just not for me. I know his joke he's got good joke writers who know how to write for his tone, but I can't see past the desperation and what he's willing to do to stay in the conversation.
I mean, look, honestly, that's the whole crux of it. He wants to stay relevant, and he has been slowly but steadily losing his liberal following and supplementing that with conservatives. Just by going to dinner with Donald Trump, now you have given people on the right, people on Fox News, the carte blanche to say, hey, even Bill Maher doesn't have a problem with Donald Trump, and you liberals, you like Bill Maher. Actually, no, we've all stopped liking Bill Maher. And honestly, it's mostly got to do with the fact that other than him being wrong quite a bit recently, he's also so smug and smarmy. You know, it's this whole strong but wrong thing. I call it smugnorance, because you're ignorant, but you're smug about it. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but you're condescending. And Bill Maher is always, okay, listen, I know the things and you don't know the things. Okay, I'm smart and you're dumb. Okay, voters are dumb. Okay. It's just so fucking smug. I just want to slap him in the fucking face. We're moving on here. This, just to give you a refresher, this is when he went. You know, he gives his little report card about how he went to the White House to have dinner with Donald Trump. Just remember this.
I'll tell you that. But, okay. Just for starters, he laughs. I'd never seen him laugh in public, but he does, including at himself.
We've all seen Donald Trump laugh. He just laughs at really stupid ass shit. We've all seen him grinning his ass off over doing some fascist ass shit. We've seen him laugh, you know, or him pretend like he's never seen him laugh before. He laughed at my jokes. You know, he pat me on the head and told me I was a good boy.
It's not fake. Believe me, as a comedian of 40 years, I know a fake laugh when I hear it.
You think? I don't think so, honey. I think that I guarantee you have a big old sign facing your audience, flashing, going, applause, applause, because you are not that funny, man. You are absolutely not that funny.
And I thank you for that. No. But, okay, example. In the Oval Office, he was showing me the portraits of presidents, and he pointed to Reagan and said, in all seriousness, you know the best thing about him? His hair. I said, well, there was also that whole bringing down communism thing, waiting for the button next to the Diet Coke button to get pushed and I go through the trap door.
Ronald Reagan was probably one of America's worst presidents by far. He was completely anti-worker, completely anti-union. He was Mr. Corporation. He got rid of regulation after regulation. And at the end of his term, we had an economic crisis. Black Monday, big fat crash at the end of his term. George W. Bush, big fat housing market crash called the Great Recession. And Donald Trump ended his first term with COVID. And we are well on our way for a bunch of new bubbles to burst. Every time there's a Republican president, it always is followed up by an economic crash. So I don't want to hear any shit about Republicans are good with money. They are absolute dog shit with money. And you know, when you talk about, oh, they're getting rid of the debt, man. They're going to bring down the debt and the deficit. They never do that, ever. The debt always goes up under them. Anyway, just to remember that this is the guy who called Donald Trump a fascist, said he wouldn't leave office. He was proven right. He runs on that, and that's part of his bona fides, that I was right about Donald Trump not wanting to leave office, and then you go to have fucking dinner with him. Here's a little short one.
Who you spent your whole life talking about how government tries to do too much, which it does, and spends too much. And here you have Trump, who is the Republican, who is aggrandizing more power than anybody, as we just talked about. And on the other side, you have the guy running in New York, Mandami, right?
It's Mamdani, not Mandami, but okay.
Okay, who's like a straight-up communist.
He's not.
I mean, he is. He talks about, the things that communists say. I
like
mean,
what?
He wants free grocery stores.
Honey, he's talking about a municipal grocery store in the food desert sections of our 5 boroughs. Because they don't have a grocery store, because if you're relying on the free market is not going to put a grocery store in that area because they don't think they can make any fucking money. That's why you can't rely on the free market to do certain things, especially something like that, putting a grocery store in a food desert. If they were going to do it, they had done it already. But that's not going to be free food. It's just going to be affordable food. It's not going to be price gouged like it is in every other grocery store. When you walk in there, you go, hey, wait a minute. My milk used to cost this much and now it's $3 more. What the fuck is that all about? Having a grocery store in a food desert would mean that that milk is still going to be the same price. It's not going to be overcharged. Now, I wanted to show you this. This is the other side of it. Marc Maron was critiquing Bill Maher for being a smarmy smugner and asshole. Well, we got Joe Rogan here. Now, Joe Rogan, he's been feeling the heat from Marc Maron. He's not been quiet lately. Marc Maron just, I think his WTF podcast is still on the air, but he is going to be retiring it pretty soon, and he just did an HBO special, which was very good. If you haven't seen it, you should absolutely check it out. But, Mark's been on a tear lately, and Joe Rogan, he's not immune to this. He's heard this, and, he notices that he's not as popular as he used to be, mostly because he's just gone full fucking MAGA, anti-vax, anti-woke, Donald Trump ball coddler, full fucking MAGA. And he's been screaming about the woke as much as Bill Maher has. And here, now, by the way, this channel is called American Redact. And they're not super political. This person is not super political, but he has been on this Joe Rogan thing for a while, and he's very good. And I would highly recommend that you give them a sub, because they are, this person is very good at this. Anyway, here is anti-woke Joe Rogan telling us that he don't have a problem with wokeness.
Move as a group.
Yeah.
They're all Republicans now.
They are.
It's the things I hear people apply to this comedy scene. I'm just like, what the?
I don't know who this guy is, but he definitely wants to get into the Joe Rogan sphere, because, it's just a new way for weak ass comics to get ahead. It's just to, crawl under the Joe Rogan wing and suckle on that teat.
So dumb.
It's
so
ridiculous.
Dumb.
It's ridiculous.
I read another article the other day about us being an anti-woke comedy scene. Like, look, why not just do great stuff? Go do great stuff. Don't worry about what we're doing. And we're not anti-woke. There's no anti-woke. There's like a ton of left-wing comics at the mothership. It's like, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah,
we're not dwelling on that. We're making fun of things.
All right, so it looks like Joe Rogan is acting like Joe Rogan again, because he seems to be in denial about the fact that he and his army of so-called healthy fellas are, in reality, just anti-woke comics. That's their entire identity now. So for Rogan to sit there and pretend like he isn't anti-woke might be the funniest thing he's ever said. It's almost like he forgot that there are literally thousands of hours of him ranting about this exact thing online. Like his whole migration to Austin was built around the...
There's Governor Hot Wheels hanging out with old Governor Hot Wheels. Mr. Abbott himself. Yeah, he don't have a problem with liberals and the leftists. That's why he moved to fucking Texas and gave Donald Trump a fucking shiatsu and a grease down when he gave him an interview, and then ended up at the inauguration with all the billionaires, because he's a billionaire.
Idea that there was this massive crowd of people desperate for comics to stand up to the woke mob, which of course he knew he could turn into a gold mine. And luckily for us, he documented that entire thought process on his podcast. Like all the way back in early 2020, right before the big Austin move, Rogan was already trying to frame this narrative to his audience, that there's this untapped market of people out there who just want to see edgy comedians push back against the dark woke mob. That is what became his business model, and he figured out that if he could round up enough like-minded comics and set up shop in Texas, that he could corner that anti-woke market and profit off of it for years. Like, just listen to the way he talked about it with Mark Norman all the way back in January of 2020.
It's like the word retarded. Right?
Yes.
If you use that, you could use that word and everyone laughs, or you can use that word and you're a monster.
That's why I don't get. Why would you want to be on that bad snitch, tattletale side of all this?
Because they want to be woke. And because there's a lot of fear in being against wokeness.
That's
and
what it
people
is.
coming after you. If you don't want to be shit on, you have to comply 100%. And then if you don't,
scary.
they come after
I love how they refer to, the wokies as the authoritarian types. Meanwhile, we have an authoritarian regime running this fucking country. I mean, the fact that he's scared of a bunch of, nose-pierced, blue-haired, 19-year-old college students And he thinks that is the greatest threat to America, but not the guy who is talking about invading Greenland and threatening to bomb Mexico. And he's got 4,000 troops sitting outside of Venezuela ready to attack. And, it's doing tariffs and wrecking the economy and slashing all of the social safety net and pretty much giving, copious amounts of money to the wealthy, and the poor and the middle classes taxes are going to get raised, and just any number of fucking things that is just so goddamn authoritarian. Not to mention all of the blue city invasions, LA, Washington, D.C., soon to be Chicago, next will be New York and Baltimore. But no, we got to be wary of the 20-year-old college student with pink hair, because they're woke, and that'll be the demise of America. Jesus Christ.
It's scary.
And it's a bummer. Who wants to live like that?
Well, nobody does. But here's the thing. When you don't comply, so many people are like, thank you.
Of course,
Thank you. There's
yes.
so many. I think more people are happy. It's just the voices that are upset at you for not being woke are the louder ones.
Right.
And they're more.
Yeah, but the people who are thanking you are psychos, man. Like that woman who called a little 5-year-old child the N-word in a playground and then went off and complained about it on the internet and got nearly $1 million in a GoFundMe for conservatives. Those are the kind of people that are so afraid of the woke.
Into it because they're retarded.
And I think that clip is important because it shows the exact mindset Rogan had going into all this. Like, this was a calculated business move. He knew there was money in leaning into the right-wing grift, and he was aware that there was a huge demographic of people wanting to throw cash at anyone who promised to fight cancel culture and keep comedy dangerous. So when Rogan plays dumb now, acting like he isn't part of the whole anti-woke crusade, it's laughable.
Oh my God. I want you to look at that picture. I want you to soak that one in. I want Joe Rogan to fucking soak that one in. You helped make that guy happen. Donald Trump loves your ass for what you did for him. You made this happen. You're not the only reason why Donald Trump won. I mean, Kamala Harris started strong, ended pretty pathetic. But you helped this. This should haunt you, man. I mean, goddamn, you see this tub of lard coming in for the big hug, man. This should make your stomach turn. But you did this, man.
Austin scene was pretty much engineered out of this realization that the anti-woke angle was a business model. So now fast forward to today, and we can see that Rogan's little plan worked out perfectly. Him and Tony Hinchcliffe have basically mastered the art of pandering to the anti-woke side of America. And honestly, it was the easiest layup imaginable. All they have to do is spit out a handful of anti-woke buzzwords, and the crowd goes absolutely wild. No setup, punchline, or actual joke is needed. They just
Yeah, they don't laugh, honey. They applaud. If you are a comedian, you're supposed to be looking for laughs. That should be your ultimate goal. You want to get belly laughs from your audience. These guys, they don't need the laughs. They just want the applause. So you just go out there and you say the R word, you say the F slur, you do everything but drop an N-bomb. And, kind of, well, I mean, what did Tony Hinchcliffe say at the fascist gathering that we had at Madison Square Garden back in 2024, when he was like, there's a big old floating island of garbage out there in the ocean. They call it Puerto Rico. I mean, you might as well just go ahead and use the N-word because you're racist as fuck.
Whatever the buzzword of the week is, mix in a couple slurs about the LGBTQ community and people of color, and boom, standing ovation.
I mean, it's always the same thing, the joke with the trans folk is always the same joke every time. Aren't they weird, and don't they make you feel funny? What the fuck is funny about that? There's nothing funny about it. It's the same tired, weak, hack joke over and over and over again. They're weird and they make me feel funny. Doesn't that make you want to laugh? Not really.
Audience eats it up every single time. And now it's gotten so bad and hacked to the point where even some of their peers are exhausted by it. Like when Shane Gillis openly joked about this nonstop slur parade on the podcast he does with Matt McCusker.
comedy movies are back.
True.
In a big way.
Pendulum swung.
Pendulum swung.
Pendulum's fully swung.
Maybe too far. Head down to the mothership. You go, oop.
Yeah.
Pendulum's maybe swung a little too far.
Yeah, I think it has swung a little bit too far. Are you regretting it yet, son? Nah, you're still getting paid.
Everyone has to say it.
True.
Every single set.
So even the comics who made their name tiptoeing the line of offensive comedy are rolling their eyes at how lazy and hack it's all gotten. But now, as soon as Maron officially called them out for it, suddenly this whole crew goes into denial mode. And now all of a sudden Maron's just jealous and mad he's not part of the Rogan sphere. Like in this next clip, Joe literally frames the Rogan sphere as a walled garden that outsiders are just bitter about being left out of.
That's also, you got to realize, like, someone framing it in a way that's
Yes.
going to get people to read it.
Yeah.
And then there's people that genuinely do think that way. And it's what a lot of...
It's not, we're not bad. We didn't make bad choices. We're not bad hack comedians. We're just in the cool kids club and you're just jelly. You're just so jelly of us. I mean, how fucking, Regina fucking Mean Girls are you? You're just like jealous and stuff. You just want to be in here with the cool kids. It's like, no, man, you have fucked with America. And you're a bad comic. You've made bad choices. And you've helped to lead us to this dark-ass place. We're not jealous. I don't want to be in your fucking little walled-off garden. I want you to stop doing what you're doing. Stop hurting the country.
That is, I think, is the walled garden issue. And the fact that there's like a walled garden, right? When there's a walled garden, there's a bunch of people that are doing really well together and they're hanging out together and they have fun. And you're not in that group. You start getting mad at that, and you find reasons why that's bad because you want something like that in your life, which
You're
we all
jealous.
do. If I see like a whole group of friends like palling around and laughing, I always smile because I know what that's like. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you never have that in your life, and you see a group of people palling around and having a good time together and hugging each other, just laughing and just having a good old time, you
We're
feel
just making fun of
like
trans
left out.
people.
You feel disrespected almost.
Yeah.
Do you get angry?
Do you remember, like, I don't know if you ever experienced this, but I'm assuming you have. It's kind of like when you're coming up the ladder initially in show business. And you
That's
see
you.
famous people on TV and whatever, and you got an opinion about everybody that's having too much fun, that's annoying.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
that guy's music sucks, and this,
He's
that,
a
whatever.
hack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 5 years later, you find yourself in a room with the guy at some party, and you meet him and talk to him, and you go, "What? He's the nicest. What the fuck?"
Yeah, I had dinner with Donald Trump, and everybody hates him, and he thinks he's really mean, but he laughed at my jokes, and he pat me on the head, and he told me I was pretty.
I think I like his music now. It just changes.
know. It's so stupid.
Yeah, I was hanging out with Joe Rogan, and I always thought his comedy was really hack and really weak, and then I met him, and he told me I was pretty, and all of a sudden, I think he's hilarious.
So according to Joe Rogan and his designated fart sniffer, Mr. DeRosa, any guy who dares to call them out with reasonable criticism is just some bitter hater standing outside the club. Like, that's their go-to defense now. And if you notice, it's the same script that Tony Hinchcliffe rolled out last week when talking about Marc Maron and Anthony Jeselnik. It's always that critics are angry failures who just don't understand what it's like to win. But they never actually address what Mark was calling them out for in the first place. They just skate around it. Because I feel like deep down they know that there's some truth there. Like if we go all the way back to one of Maron's callouts, his actual problem isn't that these guys are successful podcasters. It's that they've gone so far down the right-wing pipeline that they barely resemble the people that they used to be. And that is a valid point. We've all watched Rogan and his circle of comics drift from being edgy contrarians into fully blown political mouthpieces, doing the same talking points you would hear on Fox News during any given podcast. And Maron specifically pointed out how insane it was that Rogan and his buddies went as far as to publicly back Donald Trump during the election, solely because he advocated for free speech and bringing back comedy. Like, that was enough for them. Like, they turned one vague talking point into their entire political identities. And now they're realizing that maybe tying their brand to a politician that they barely understood in the first place wasn't the smartest long-term move.
I mean, ultimately, that's the thing. That's the crux of it. They don't understand. I mean, when Joe Rogan had Donald Trump on and gave him a 3-hour massage and a handy under the table, Donald Trump lied to his face. I was having this conversation with a couple of family members over the weekend, and I was talking about this, and they were both like, Joe Rogan's just having a conversation. It's free speech. He's just having a conversation. You are having a conversation with one of your buddies, one of your bros. When you are talking to somebody who is running to be the leader of the free world, or you're talking to somebody who is 100 billionaire, and you go into it to just have a conversation, and you're high as fuck, and you haven't done any research on the person, and you have absolutely no way to retort to any of the bullshit propaganda that they say, you are not doing your job. You're getting paid $100 million a year to do this fucking drivel. You have a responsibility to your audience to at least be a bit of a stopgap for all the lies and bullshit that are just pumped on your show. I mean, you got a fucking billionaire's waiting room out there. You know, Mark Andreessen and Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and Donald Trump. You're bringing on these people to spread propaganda with absolutely no pushback. Donald Trump literally sat there across the table from you in your face, and he said, "I never said lock her up." Meanwhile, there's a compilation out there on YouTube where he says lock her up 100 fucking times. And you didn't say jack or shit about that. You'd be like, come on there, Don. You know you said it a few times. He didn't say that. He said something to the effect of, Mr. President, nobody ever lets you talk. First of all, fuck off. Nobody ever lets him talk. All he does is talk. But he says, nobody ever lets you talk, Mr. President. I'm just going to open up the floor to you and just let you go ahead and say your side of the story, as if he never, ever says his own fucking side of the story. It's always his side of the story, and all of his stories are fucking lies. But you get no pushback. So this guy gets paid hundreds of millions of dollars to be just a propaganda waiting room for the ruling class and Republican, and Republican politicians. And Marc Maron is calling him out on that, going, dude, I don't give a fuck if you're successful. I give a fuck that you go into these interviews, these conversations, and you're not prepared. And you just let them run roughshod all over you, spread their propaganda to his millions of listeners, and you don't say nothing about it. Sorry, I'll let Mark say it.
And then it just evolved into the idea of the anti-woke angle of, I'm voting the way I'm going to vote because, I can't, I don't have freedom of speech, which is it's a false premise. Yeah, there was cultural pushback and, it got a little weird with the canceling, but I really think it would have found its level and language would have evolved as it does.
I love guys with podcasts and millions of subscribers and watchers talking about they're trying to take away my free speech. Meanwhile, you have more free speech than almost anybody I know. Donald Trump talking about censorship and free speech. Meanwhile, he's doing everything he can to sue media companies and to go after lawmakers and lock them up for things or to, quote unquote, cancel them from their jobs because of their speech. I have a right to say what I want. You don't have a right to say what you want. That's my free speech. I get to say what I want and you can't say anything back to me, or else I'll sue you.
You don't say anymore out of respect for people who we live among. Democracy.
Yeah.
So, but that's not the way it went. So the anti-woke thing, it was just about like, all right, you voted this way because of this one issue, but along with that, comes everything that we're living through. And was it worth it? And then calling back the R word was just a natural way to go.
Yeah.
And, Rogan and Hinchcliffe and, just a lot of these people just locked into this anti-woke thing. But now, the government, which is for all practical, good intents and purposes, is an authoritarian government. And we have a fairly dominant fascistic culture. Yeah. So they're using the same language, which is anti-woke, to dismantle all progressive institutions.
So yeah, Maron definitely hit a nerve. That's why instead of
during the Nazi times, they used to call them cultural Marxist. And just today's terms is they're the woke. I mean, don't get me wrong, Donald Trump and his ilk do call them communist and Marxist and leftist and socialist and all of the ists, because they know that are trigger words for the people that go out to see their rallies, and they know that they're going to get off on it, But these guys, Bill Maher, Tony Hinchcliffe, Joe Rogan, these guys have a bit of a responsibility, especially considering how wealthy and powerful and successful they are, and the fact that their voices have such a long reach, and more people hear them. And to pretend like, hey, I'm just a comedian over here, I'm just over here having a conversation, that's not going to cut it. You're having a conversation with one of your friends. When you're having a conversation on air, spread to millions of people with the billionaire class and the Republican leadership, and allowing them to spit their bullshit lies and vitriol with no pushback, you have a responsibility to it. And you are not living up to your responsibility. And now these chickens are coming home to roost, and you're going, hey, I didn't think that Donald Trump was going to go this far. What the fuck did you think he was going to do, man? Seriously. Anyway, I appreciate Marc Maron. I kind of wish, now that he's about to end his WTF podcast, I kind of wish he wasn't, because, that's a voice that we sorely need, especially in the comedy world. We need somebody. Comedy is supposed to be insightful. Comedy is supposed to be satire. Comedy is supposed to, make you think. Guys like Rogan and Maher, they're talking point machines. And, everything is hinged on their little ballywick of, wokeness or the things that bother me. Talk about first world problems, like first 1% world problems. People said mean things about me. Well, tough titty, man. I thought you were a tough guy. I thought you'd get in the ring and take it, man. But no, some college kid, calls you out for being an idiot or an asshole, and you get all in your feels, your fifis, and you're like, how dare they say this? They're trying to cancel me. Meanwhile, you get paid hundreds of $millions to talk your bullshit. Nobody is canceling you. This cancel culture shit is bullshit. Anyway, appreciated Marc Maron. Thanks for, being out there doing your thing. You keep it up, and, hopefully the WTF podcast, when it ends, you won't go away and you'll still stay in this comedy sphere, because yours is a voice that we sorely need right now. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like and subscribe. Keep rocking.